guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Wednesday, June 19th, and I am getting ready for the second round of news. I've already uploaded the first video. It is 6:52 p.m. Eastern Time, which I know it's early for me, but I am trying to push it forward, my recording, so that I can get it done earlier in the day, and then if things come up, I don't end up missing the show, because I know that people look for it every night and I would like it to be there when you look for it. So there you go. Let's get started. We've got lots more to get to. All right, here is the first thing, and thank you, Heather, for sending this to me. Article by the Gateway Pundit. Is Hillary drinking again? Did she ever stop? Hillary tries to troll Trump, and InfoWars after Trump's mega rally in Orlando claims she's blessed with stamina. Well, is she? Yeah, I guess she is. Look at all these pictures here. Yeah. Chug-a-lug. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I don't think she ever stopped drinking. Did Hillary Clinton hit the bottle early today? Hillary Clinton attempted to troll President Trump and InfoWars Wednesday afternoon, probably when she woke up after Trump's wildly successful mega rally in Orlando, Florida. President Trump held his 2020 campaign kickoff rally in Orlando, Florida Tuesday night to a massive overflow crowd. The crowd went wild when President Trump ripped into crooked Hillary Clinton for her countless crimes and obstruction of justice. If you want to know how the system is rigged, just compare how they came after us for 3 years with everything they have versus the free pass they gave to Hillary and her aides after they set up an illegal server, destroyed evidence, deleted and acid washed 33,000 emails, exposed classified information, and turned the State Department into a pay-for-play cash machine, Trump said. She'll never beat the master troller. The crowd broke out into chants of "lock her up, lock her up." 33,000 emails. Think of it, Trump exclaimed. We may find Hillary's missing emails deep in the State Department, Trump hinted. Let's see what happens. We now have a great attorney general. Let's see what happens, Trump said to a cheering crowd. And as I said in the last video, when Trump says, let's see what happens, he knows what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think they do have those emails. They wouldn't be kidding around about it if they didn't. And they are also trolling Hillary because, you know, when people get scared, they tend to do stupid things. So maybe he is trolling her for that reason, or maybe he just enjoys trolling her. I think he probably just enjoys trolling her. We may find, okay, I just read that. Failed gubernatorial socialist candidate Andrew Gillum tweeted on Tuesday evening, Hillary Clinton, you must be exhausted because you've been running through Donald Trump's small mind for a long time. Well, you know, I hope she takes her shoes off when she runs through his mind. Hillary's response Wednesday afternoon was a complete joke. I can handle it, blessed with stamina, and thankfully I didn't stay up late last night watching InfoWars, Hillary said in response to Gillum's tweet. Yeah, she's got a long way to go before she's able to get to Trump's level. She'll never get to Trump's level because I think when you've been participating in evil for that long, I think it does something to your mind. Honestly, I'm not even joking here. I do think that it does something to your mind, especially the type of evil things that she's involved with. So yeah, there's her with all her stamina, you know, stumbling up the steps, and you know, it seems to me that there's been a lot of videos lately of her stumbling around, you know, people having to catch her, but she's got great stamina, according to her. Well, this is a lovely picture right here, isn't it? Who does that? If you've got a belly, do you do that? It's kind of like, I'm a fat kid and I like jelly donuts. Nobody does that. Okay, anyway, let's go on here. Yeah, there's Hillary falling downstairs. And here she is falling, getting into a vehicle. So, yeah, I'm not so sure she has much stamina, to tell you the truth. But if she thinks she does, that's the important part, because she is a legend in her own mind. Yeah, and she has the most excuses of anyone I've ever heard for why she didn't win. Yes, it's everybody else's fault. It's never hers. All right, and let's go from Hillary to scratch and sniff Biden. Yeah, that should really be something. Biden, we should start a physical revolution to deal with Republicans. Now, let's turn the tables a bit and pretend that this was said by a Republican. And they said, well, we need to start a physical revolution to deal with the Democrats. What would happen? All hell, and I do mean that in the strictest sense of the word, all hell would break loose in this country. Oh, yes. Because hell hath no fury like a Democrat scorned. Can you believe this guy said that and got away with it? On Monday, 2020 Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden suggested that it may be a good idea to use violence against Republicans by starting a physical revolution. The comments were made on MSNBC with Joy Reid after the host questioned the former vice president on how he will confront Republicans. So that's his big idea on how to deal with Republicans. Oh, well, man, we're just going to have to start a revolution and, hurt them. Of course, he wouldn't just hurt them. He'd want to go and sniff them all. Smell their hair. How would you get past either a majority Republican Senate in which Mitch McConnell was determined to kill all of these ideas, or even a Mitch McConnell in the minority who repeated the consistent filibustering when you were vice president, and anything that came from the Obama-Biden administration, Mitch McConnell considered dead on arrival, Reid asked Biden. Joy, I know you're one of those who thinks it's naive to think we have to work together, Biden said. The fact of the matter is, if we can't get a consensus, nothing happens except the abuse of power by the executive. There are certain things where it just takes a brass knuckle fight, he continued later, adding, let's start a real physical revolution if you're talking about it. Yeah, okay. It takes a brass knuckle fight. Yeah, and this is the man that wants to be president and says that Donald Trump is inappropriate? Really? Wow. These people, seriously, these people absolutely blow my mind. They blow my mind because they do the very things they accuse others of doing. The very thing. And you know what they're doing wrong. Because of it's whatever they're accusing other people of doing, that's what they're doing. That's the game they play. Yep, this isn't the only outlandish comment recently made by Biden. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that's not the only outlandish comment. No, I'm not. On Monday, Biden boldly stated that he will win several key Republican states in 2020 if he is elected as the Democratic nominee. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He couldn't win a rigged election. Hillary couldn't win a rigged election. That's bad. Like, seriously. If everything is rigged for you to win and you still lose, you got an issue. Really. But these people never take a look at themselves. They never look at themselves. They think that what they do, is justified, but everyone else is to blame. They never look at themselves and really take a good, honest look at themselves in the mirror and into their own. They never want to peer into their own soul. Why would they want to peer into their own soul? It would be like watching a horror movie. Except it would be real. During an event at the Poor People's Campaign, really? That's what it's called? The Poor People's Campaign? Biden announced the 5 states that he thinks he can flip. The only thing, I don't even think he could flip a burger, really. I plan on campaigning in the South, Biden stated. I plan on, if I'm your nominee, winning Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Believe it or not. Okay, well, then I don't. I don't believe it. I think he would have a better chance of getting on the Olympic team for figure skating. He wasn't done. Tell me he is. And I believe we can win Texas and Florida if you look at the polling data right now. Oh yes, and the polling data is so accurate. Woo! Yeah. So accurate. Just like the polling data. What did they say? Hillary Clinton had a 98% chance of winning. What happened to that? All their polls suggested she was a shoo-in. What happened there, Hillary? Oh, I know, it's someone else's fault. Texas and Georgia both have been solid red states in the past, but Trump underperformed in both states in 2016, and Democrats nearly picked up major victories in both states during the 2018 midterm elections. A poll released by the Texas Tribune Monday showed that only 39% of registered voters in the Lone Star State would definitely support the president next year. Well, that's because right now the whole state is full of illegals. Yes. That's why. And illegals are always going to vote for Democrats because that's who's going to give them the stuff. Excuse me, I don't have Ebola. I hope. Well, if I do, you won't get it. Not from me. Even if I cough into the mic, you still won't get it. Okay. So anyway, South Carolina would appear to be a much longer shot, given that no Democratic presidential nominee has carried the state since Jimmy Carter in 1976. Trump won the state by roughly 14% in 2016. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Well, my thoughts is it's good for a laugh. Good for a laugh. But that's about it. Scratch and sniff Biden isn't going to the White House at all. Can you imagine all the staffers would have to hide their children? My gosh, I hope nobody brings their kids to these rallies. Well, you wouldn't really call it a rally. There's like 85 people there. But he thinks he's going to win. Well, if he does, I'm telling you, there would be an all-out war because we would know that there was cheating going on. Obviously. All right, now let's look at this. Like I said, Trump is the master troller. You gotta love him. And I don't agree with everything with Donald Trump either. I hate the fact that he just signed something, paving the way for more GMOs. I'd have to look at exactly what that bill is, but I was not happy about that one bit because I would think that he would be aware of the damage that GMOs do to the health of Americans. But, and I'm upset that the chemtrails have not stopped. Why not? Surely he has to know. I don't know how he could not know. So, but overall, I think he is our best hope at this point. Prayers go out. No. We don't want that. Prayers go out to Oprah Winfrey. Whatever. Okay. Now this. Trump planning to live tweet Democratic debates. According to a report, President Trump is a master Twitter troll, and now he's planning his greatest troll fest ever. The president is tentatively planning to live tweet the debates on June 26, 27. I know I'll be tied to the Twitter during that time because no one can troll like Trump. According to the people familiar with the planning, the Wall Street Journal reported Tuesday, Mr. Trump, even from a from a remove always promised to be the most important figure at the debate. Regardless of the specific debate questions, many Democratic voters will be listening for how much each candidate plans to take down Mr. Trump. Interacting in real time on Twitter would make Mr. Trump's presence more tangible by directly inserting himself into the political conversation unfolding on stage. His posts could provide instant responses as well as insights into which attacks he feels most accurately. Or acutely, rather. I'm not sure where this cough is coming from. Trump's almost daily attacks are a double-edged sword. Oh, wait. But the Journal said that the plans aren't firm, adding political advisors warned that the planning for debate night remains fluid and that Mr. Trump can change his mind. Trump's almost daily attacks are a double-edged sword. While he enjoys taking down weak candidates like former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke and Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, those attacks raise their stature, making them seemingly worthy of addressing. Trump has gone after forerunner Joe Biden and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders as well. And both have been rising in the polls of late. Well, again, I don't believe the polls at all. 20 Democrats will debate next Wednesday and Thursday. 3 of the announced 23 candidates did not make the cut. Here's the lineup. June 26th, Cory Booker. Oh, that would be fun. I'm going to have to listen to that. And I'm going to have to keep an eye on Trump's tweets that day because, well, I love me some Cory Booker, only because he's fun to make fun of. Julian Castro, former housing secretary. Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York. John Delaney, former representative from Maryland. Tulsi Gabbard, representative from Hawaii. Jay Inslee, governor of Washington. Amy Klobuchar, senator from Minnesota. Beto O'Rourke, former representative from Texas. Tim Ryan, representative from Ohio. Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts. The one I want to hear, Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke, Bill de Blasio, and Cory Booker on June 26th. Those are the ones that I would be listening to, and I don't know, I get a kick out of Elizabeth Warren, to tell you the truth, because she's trying so hard to be relevant. She's trying a little too hard. And June 27th, Michael Bennet, senator from Colorado. Joseph R. Biden Jr., former vice president. Pete Buttigieg, now there's a good one. That ought to be fun. And Biden and Buttigieg there. Kirsten Gillibrand from NXIVM fame. Yes, she stands a chance. No, she doesn't. Kamala Harris, senator from California. John Hickenlooper. Now there's a name. That's almost as fun as Papadopoulos. In fact, I like that name, Hickenlooper. Yes, John Hickenlooper. It would be fun to have a President Hickenlooper, but no. I think I'll stick with Trump, thanks. So yeah, he is the former governor of Colorado. And Bernie Sanders, well, that should put everyone to sleep. Eric Swalwell, that will be entertaining, yes. And Marianne Williamson, self-help author. Well, she stands a chance. No, she doesn't. And Andrew Yang, former tech executive. That means 2 of the top 3 candidates in the polls will face off on night 2, Biden and Sanders. Harris, too, will be there, as will Buttigieg, also in the top tier. Warren, meanwhile, is stuck with the also-rans. Well, she doesn't have much of a chance. The latest Quinnipiac poll stacks up this way. Biden 30, Sanders 19, Warren 15, Buttigieg 8, Harris 7, O'Rourke 3, Booker 1, Klobuchar 1, Bennett Yang 1, Gillibrand 0, Inslee, Castro 0. All the rest have 0 as well. So Warren at 15 will face off with a candidate at 3 and another at 1. The debates will be moderated by the NBC anchors Lester Holt, Savannah Guthrie, and Chuck Todd, the Telemundo anchor Jose Diaz-Balart, and the MSNBC host Rachel Maddow. Oh, come on. Please, everybody now. A collective eye roll is very much in order. Are you ready? Don't you feel better? I do. With Trump live tweeting, it would be even better if he would live twerk. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Look for some new nicknames. Trump is a master of that too. He calls Warren Pocahontas for her false claim that she's Native American. He calls Senator Richard Blumenthal, the Connecticut Democrat who falsely claimed to have fought in the Vietnam War, Da Nang Dick. Jeb Bush was, of course, low energy Jeb, and then there's Crooked Hillary, Lion Leakin' James Comey, Jeff Flakey, Head Crown Chuck Schumer, and Mad Maxine Waters. Yeah. So there you go. So that's something to look forward to. There'll be plenty of entertainment for those 2 nights anyway. All right. Now, let's go back here. No, really, let's. And let's go on, because we've got more to get to. I know. You're saying, no way. More? Yes. More. All right. Oh, look at this. These poor transgendered people. People are refusing to date them. I can't imagine why. Psychology Today. People refusing to date transgenders is dehumanizing. Now, this came to me through my friend Heather in Houston, and I'm glad that she sent it to me because, well, it kind of shows you the state we're in, doesn't it? Reasons were still expressed using dehumanizing language. Well, let me see. Have you seen most of the transgender people? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say there. If you are a heterosexual, cisgendered person who only wishes to date heterosexual, cisgendered people, then shame on you for dehumanizing transgenders and the non-binary, according to a recent article published in Psychology Today. Bad people, bad. The article explores a study written by Karen L. Blair and Ree Ashley Hoskins in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, which essentially chastises people as bigots for the sin of being attracted to a man who is actually a man, or a woman who is actually a woman, while also arguing that the prevailing attitude contributes to the psychological harm of transgenderism. When first conducting their study, Blair and Hoskins asked close to 1,000 participants what kind of partner they preferred and gave them the following options: a cisgendered woman, a cisgendered man, a transgender woman, a transgender man, a person with a non-binary gender identification. None of the above for me, thanks. Of course, that's probably why, I'm not married. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. Maybe I just need to dress up like a man or something. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should dress as a woman, dress as a man, dress as a woman, or something like that. I don't know. But actually, it is hard I'm finding that if you are older and a Christian, it is impossible. It is just about impossible to find appropriate people to date because, they're just, well, especially here, just not a lot of Christians. Okay. Unsurprisingly, 87.5% of those polled said they prefer the 2 options depending on which way they swing. The first 2 options, cisgender, man or woman, respectively, non-binary and transgender people, were at the bottom and typically only chosen by people who identified as bisexual, gay, or some other type of sexuality. For heteros, the results were other cisgendered heteros. The author finds this deeply problematic and believes that attitudes need to change. For thousands of years now, there have been 2 genders. It says in the Bible that God created them, male and female, and that is how we have procreated. And you and I would not be here if it were not for normal male and female relations, right? I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. I know you wouldn't. So, although I guess it is conceivable now that there are test tube babies, but still it has to be fertilized by a male. So, yeah, I don't understand why we go all of these years and then suddenly we have 300 genders. I don't get it. I don't get it. Now, I know that there have always been people that have been attracted to the same sex, even throughout history. There are some very famous people. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a famous writer. I don't know, his name escapes me. I studied him extensively, but anyway, he was, and actually he went to prison for it, which I think is a little bit extreme. But now I don't agree with that lifestyle, but I believe that people are entitled to free will. And so I don't think you can impose morality on someone. You can't impose morality through the law. You really can't. It doesn't work. But yeah, I don't understand this. And I don't understand why they are questioning why people might not want to date them. Just saying. Now, and there are such instances where people are born as hermaphrodites. It's rare, but it happens. And in that case, they do need to pick a gender. They have the hormones and everything of both genders. They have, they may have breasts and a penis, or a man's top and female bottom, whatever. But in that case, that is that needs to be corrected medically somehow. But I don't know. I'm babbling. Okay. So the author also explained participants' responses in a similar study by the Canadian Psychological Association's annual convention, which yielded similar results. However, the authors blamed this on several factors outside of nature itself: dehumanization, prejudice, uncertainty or lack of knowledge, and issues related to bodies and reproduction. The most common reason for being unwilling to consider dating transgender or non-binary people was that participants felt that they lacked information and understanding of what precisely these kind of identities mean within the context of dating. The author continued, for example, many simply stated that they had never really considered the question before and were unsure of what it would mean to be in a relationship with a transgender or non-binary individual. Other reasons, however, were less about lacking information and more about a strong dislike for trans people. It's not that I dislike the people at all. I think that we are to love them as we should. All human beings we should love, and but that doesn't necessarily means that I want to date one, and it doesn't mean that I automatically agree with their lifestyle choices. I can respect them and love them, but not agree with their choices. So there you go. But anyway, the authors scold participants for saying transgender have make-believe identities, or for wanting to date people with whom they could have actual biological children, characterizing their language as dehumanizing. I don't believe that that's dehumanizing. I think that that is just stating how they feel. I think that most young people want to have children at some point in their life, and you don't necessarily, whether you're a believer or not, I mean, certainly if you're a non-believer, you may not agree with my stance on this, and that is perfectly fine. That's okay. We can agree to disagree and still respect each other. But most want children, and that's not always going to be possible with a transgender person. So yeah, I do. It poses a significant problem for a lot of people, and myself included, because of my religious beliefs. And the thing is, no one scolds the Muslims for they don't agree with the transsexual, gay lifestyle, or bisexual, anything like of that nature. And it's interesting because the bakery that was fined for refusing to do a cake for a gay couple's wedding. Well, it's interesting because people went to Muslim bakeries in the area and asked them, and they all refused. But that didn't seem to be an issue, because people said, well, that's their religion. Well, Christians, what is the difference here, is what I'm saying. Why is one segment of society allowed to be biased or what have you, or dehumanizing is what they call it? I don't believe that that's just dehumanizing. I think that as long as you treat them with the same respect as you would treat anybody else, then you are not dehumanizing them. It's not dehumanizing to simply disagree with somebody's stance on something. You know, would I be dehumanizing to you if I disagreed with you about some aspect of a political ideology or what have you, or religious ideology? Would that be dehumanizing to you for me to disagree? Or for you to disagree with me? I don't find that dehumanizing at all. I find it invigorating. I do. I like to hear different issues on things, and because it challenges me and it makes me think, okay, why do I believe that? So there you go. Okay, well, I've gotten to enough of that. Let's go on. I don't want to talk anybody's hind legs off because you may need those. All right. And look at this. You've probably already heard this because, well, it was from yesterday, but there were rumors of it going to be happening, and it has. Governor Andrew Cuomo signs green light bill allowing illegal alien drivers licenses. Yeah, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? I don't get that. I really don't, because when I came to the States, and it was, you know, a long time ago, and I mean, I was there for most of my adult life, and I went and I had a hard time because what I did, I came across on a NAFTA TN1 visa originally, and then I ended up marrying a U.S. citizen, which actually caused more, you know, confusion than it did good, because it threw me into a different immigration status. But anyway, that's a long story. And so what I was going to say is, when I first went down there, I could get a driver's license because I handed in my Canadian driver's license. So I was allowed to get a driver's license, but I couldn't get a bank account. I couldn't rent an apartment. I couldn't do anything really. I was very limited in what I could do. It was extremely difficult for me to even open a bank account until I actually, you know, was all legal. And I mean, I was there legally, but until I actually got my documentation and everything, it was very hard to function. And I don't understand how the illegal aliens are able to do that. Things may have changed. They must have changed, because I sure didn't find it that easy at all. You know, without the proper documentation, you know, you are very, very limited. But apparently not anymore. I don't know. So let's go back now. Okay, now this is very important for us to understand. And I'm getting to this basically because I want to warn people that this is coming. Some people are better at projecting things that are going to happen based on things that happen today than others are. And in case you have not been thinking about this, you need to start thinking about this, because there are going to be shortages of food next year. There will be, because some farmers haven't even been able to get crops in the ground, and especially in the Midwest. So the Midwest flooding will cause shortages of these foods. Now, I want to tell you this to prepare you, because, and I know that a lot of you are on fixed incomes, and I totally get that, but you can use couponing. You can cut coupons out. You can, when something is on sale, get 1 or 2 extra and put it away and rotate that food as well, so that you're not getting outdated food. But it is easy, really, to prepare. You don't have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on specialized food kits that they try to sell you out of panic. I think it's fine if you have the money to do that. Great. I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the money to spend thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars on food that, you know, I'm only going to eat in an emergency. But I do have the money to, every time I get groceries and something is on sale for a good price, I get an extra one. And I've got backups of everything that I use, you know, all the time. There are certain things that I use all the time. And so I get extras of those, I put them away, and then every so often I'll rotate. When I get a new one, I'll rotate the other one out and put the new one in there so that everything stays fresh. It's very inexpensive to get beans and rice. Beans and rice will keep you alive a very, very, very long time, because it is a complete protein. So you could stay alive with beans and rice and a few vegetables and be absolutely fine with no meat or anything. Now, your diet may be boring, but I lived on it when I was in the rainforest in Central America. That's what I lived on: beans and rice and a few vegetables, and I was perfectly fine. I was very healthy when I left there. So foods are dangerous natural disasters. People and animals can be swept away and easily drown. Floods can carry bacteria and pollutants great distances. Floods can bust through levees and tear down bridges. Floods can also lead to food shortages when they destroy farms, like the recent floods in the Midwest have. Smart preppers will take measures to beef up their food storage. I'm going to make this a little bit, even with my glasses, I'm having a hard time seeing that. So you people on your phones must really be having a difficulty seeing it. By now, most U.S.-based preppers have either heard about or experienced the massive damaging floods in the Midwest since the past March. To make matters worse, the potential for more floods is key. Agricultural states loom in front of us as more rain is predicted for the rest of the spring. So far, heavy flooding has impacted important agricultural states, including Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. Additional spring rain and melting snow will prolong and expand flooding, especially in the central and southern U.S. As this excess water flows downstream through the river basins, the flood threat will become worse and geographically more widespread. And that is exactly what's happened. The flooding is extensive, and there's areas that are still being flooded. So yeah, it's not good, and especially for the farmers. Unbelievable. I really, really feel a deep sympathy for the farmers, because I grew up, both my grandparents were large dairy farmers, and so I grew up, my dad wasn't a dairy farmer and my mother was a teacher, but I grew up going to my grandparents' farms all the time. So I do have a deep appreciation for farming and what is involved, and it's not easy. It's just not easy. So let's take a look at why this is happening, what the real risks involved, and what steps you could take to keep you and your loved ones fed and safe during a food shortage. So it doesn't matter what caused the floods. We know that it's runoff and stuff and rain, but that's not the problem. The problem is that now we are facing food shortages next year. We really are. I mean, there's no way to get around that. The flat frozen land, unable to soak in much of the water, spread it fast and furious the way liquid would spread across a tiled floor, and the runoff quickly filled many rivers and streams to overflowing. Well, that is a very simplistic explanation, because why this year? Why is this year so much worse? And the rain in this area, like the river here, actually overflowed, and we had a scenario that's much like what you see in the States, where you have whole roads washed away. We have what is called the river road that runs along the river, and the river overflowed its bank and took out part of the road. There's terrible flooding here. There's terrible flooding in Quebec and Ottawa areas. So Canada's not immune at all. We've had the same situation here with too much rain and a lot of flooding. So home gardeners may be familiar with the saying, the garden waits for no one. When it's time to start seeds, time to plant, time to weed, etc., that's it. It's time. We don't get the luxury of starting any time we feel like. For example, you can't start cucumbers and tomatoes outdoors in September in New England and expect to eat them. Each plant has its own needs for ground temperature, moisture, and sunlight. If you wait too long, your plants just won't grow well or at all. You snooze, you lose. Commercial farmers are in the same boat. Many were waiting for the massive rains to stop so their fields could dry out enough to plant their crops. But that break in rain never came. For many farmers, the time has simply run out to plant staple crops like wheat and corn. Yeah, and those are crops that we depend on hugely. And it's the same thing in Canada. So it's not like you can say, well, we'll just get our food from Canada. We've got the same issue. And where else, do you really want to be dependent on other countries to be supplying this food at such a volatile time in history? So you can expect price increase and shortages. So let's get down to which foods are going to be scarce, okay? Because this is important for everyone to know. Wheat, corn, soybeans, hay, and in terms of wheat, think about everything that's made with wheat. Bread, pasta, crackers, cereals. That's huge. Wheat covers a huge gamut of products. So, if you have a big freezer, stick some extra loaves of bread in there and whatever, pasta, whatever that you think that you will need. Because, to me, this is how I look at it. Having that food set aside for a time when you need it is an investment. It's an investment. It's like putting your money in the stock market, and you are hoping, nobody puts their money in a stock and hopes that the stock goes down. You're hoping that it goes up. Well, when you have food put aside and that food doubles or triples in price, it's an investment. You're saving that money that you would have otherwise had to spend just to get some nourishment. So wheat, corn, soybean, hay, alfalfa, oats, that's another one. Oats are in a lot of things. Beef. I think many of us eat beef. Now, that is not something I'll have to worry about in this area because I know many farmers that raise cows, so I can always get beef here. Dairy is not something that I would ever be short of in this area either. Pork. Now, there's going to be a huge pork shortage because all of the pigs in China are being slaughtered, and we don't know. Could it hit the pigs here? I don't know. Chicken, eggs. Now, I don't know of any way you can put eggs away in a freezer, but that's something else that it's going to rise. Like, these are staple foods. These are not extravagant foods that you can say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we have wheat. Well, yeah, it does. And you could say, well, I'm gluten-free. Well, you'll need oats, corn, soybeans. Dairy is a big one. A lot of people depend on dairy, and chicken and eggs. Yeah. So just keep in mind, get some other sources of protein put aside, like tuna, peanut butter, excellent source of protein. I don't know if you can freeze peanut butter. I would imagine that you could. I don't know, but it lasts quite a while. So anyway, take a good look at that list. Grains are not just being used for baking bread. They're used extensively in CAFOs for livestock feed. Grain prices go up, so does the cost of meat. Hay and alfalfa are also key crops for feeding cattle and horses. Check out the price increase for hay due to fires, drought, and now flooding. Well, we're not going to do that, but I just wanted you to, here, the price of hay has tripled for a lot of horse and livestock owners. Hay bales that usually cost $40 are now $150. That's because there's a shortage in the region. The Midwest hay shortage is said to be the result of 2018 wildfires in Kansas, drought in Missouri, and wet weather in Iowa. Also, take a look at nearly any food label on ready-made foods at your local grocery store. You will typically find wheat, corn, dairy, eggs, or soy in nearly every single convenience food out there. Corn is used for corn syrup, and high fructose corn syrup is added to everything from granola bars to breakfast cereals to deli meats. Corn is added as ethanol to our fuel. Wheat, cornstarch, and modified cornstarch are added as thickening agents to every sauce. Good luck finding anything that comes packaged that doesn't contain soy or soy lecithin. Bottom line, our modern food supply is largely dependent upon grains and soy. With major producers losing at least one harvest this year, the cost of manufactured food and livestock feed will skyrocket. Meat and dairy will be doubly impacted. While many farms lost animals to floodwaters and farmers lost money due to both lost animals and damage to property, the cost to feed those remaining animals is going to go through the roof. Add to this livestock disease and tariffs and trade war with both Mexico and China, the two countries for whom we import the most food. Both consumers and farmers are in deep financial trouble. So I just wanted you to be aware, in case you hadn't been thinking that far in advance, there are going to be shortages. So if you are able to put a few dollars away from every check or whatever to get yourself a few foods to put away, it will help tremendously. Red beans, that's a good one to have, a good source of protein. And if you combine it with rice, it's a complete protein. So anyway, that's it. I'm not going to belabor this any further, but you know, if you are in a situation and you're somewhere warm and you can plant a fruit tree or plant some strawberry whatever or blueberry bushes or what have you, it's going to help you. It's only going to help you and your neighbors. So, and a fruit tree is not that much money to buy. Or if you have a neighbor that has a fruit tree, you know, take a slip off of it and, you know, clone it. So anyway, all right, that's it for that. But I feel responsible to tell you guys and to let you guys know, because that's something that I've been thinking about before I even read about anything about it, because I thought this flooding is not going to be good for the farmers at all. And I knew it would translate to shortages in the supermarket and higher prices, which it's amazing here. The cost of living here is unbelievable. And every single time I go to the grocery store, and I do mean every single time, it's up a few more cents, and things are being repackaged into smaller packages, and they think, you know, we don't notice. I just noticed that my favorite yogurt, which I buy a lot of yogurt, I love it, and I buy this yogurt, and all of a sudden I looked at it and I went, wait a minute, the little cups are smaller, but it's the same price. That's happening with just about everything here anyway, and I would assume it's happening where you are as well. So let's go on here. I know I belabored that, but it's really important. I want people to be aware. And let's look at this, because this goes along with it. The biggest animal disease outbreak we've ever had on the planet has already killed millions, and there is no way to stop it. And let's come down and see this. We have never seen an animal disease outbreak like this before, and it's rapidly getting worse. African swine fever, also referred to as pig Ebola, has already wiped out millions upon millions of pigs, and it continues to spread to even more countries. There is no vaccine and there's no cure, and so essentially we don't have any way to stop this disease. At this point, the only solution is to kill all the pigs wherever the virus is found and desperately hope it doesn't spread anywhere else. But this approach clearly hasn't been working, and according to a recent Fox News report, this epidemic has now become the biggest animal disease outbreak we've ever had on the planet. So that's, you know, that's saying something, really. And you know, I'm not a pork person. I really don't care for, I mean, once in a while I'll have a pork chop, but I don't like bacon, and I don't know, not a pork person. But a lot of the world does rely on pork products, and including the United States. So it's major. China is the epicenter for this outbreak, and it's also home to half of all the pigs in the world. Yeah, half. Actually, to be more accurate, I should say that it used to be home to half of all the pigs in the world. In a normal year, China slaughters approximately 700 million pigs. But according to Rabobank, that number will be down to 30% this year due to the outbreak. Researchers at Rabobank are estimating that this year China will suffer a 30% loss in pork production as a result of ASF. To put that in perspective, that 30% loss in production is equivalent to Europe's entire annual pork supply, and almost 30% larger than the US annual pork production. Yeah, this is serious. Let's do some quick math. 30% of 700 million is 210 million. That's 210 million pigs that will not be eaten. Let that sink in for a moment. 210 million pigs will be lost in China alone in 2019. And when you throw in the rest of the world, we're talking about cataclysmic losses already, and that outbreak is only getting worse. One of the primary reasons why this virus is so fearsome is because it survives just about anywhere, and it is incredibly hard to kill. Now, I happen to believe that this virus is engineered. I don't have absolute conclusive proof of that, but I do believe that. And I think that we are going to be seeing more and more animal disease outbreaks in animals. The Bible predicts that. There's going to be plagues and pestilences, it says, and it's going to increase as time grows shorter. Even if we had an effective treatment, attempting to eradicate this disease would be complete and utter nightmare. But as I have stated earlier, there's no vaccine and there's no cure. All we can do is keep killing pigs. But of course, global demand for pork just continues to grow as the global population increases. So with increasing demand and rapidly falling supply, it was inevitable that pork prices would begin to rise substantially. The implications of the outbreak are already being felt beyond Asia. Global pork prices have risen by almost 40%, and long term it is likely to lead to more pork imports from Europe and America to meet demand, which will also push up global meat prices. Now, if you are a fan of pork and you like pork chops or whatever, bacon, get some, put it in your freezer, because the prices are only going up. And as with everything else. And what we have seen so far is just the beginning. In fact, China's Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs is now telling us that the price of pork is likely to rise 70% by the end of 2019. 70%. Of course, if this disease continues to spread, we could be talking about an epidemic that could literally end the global pork industry as we know it today. Already, there is a tremendous amount of paranoia about the spread of this virus, and for good reason. In fact, the virus has been found in Chinese pork products that were confiscated by custom officials in Japan, South Korea, and Australia. Now, I don't know if this virus, I don't believe it can mutate to people, but you know, the longer a virus goes, the more it mutates and is able to survive conditions which threaten it. So, and could it be possible that pork products tainted with the disease were able to slip through the inspection process in various countries? We don't know. And what we do know is that African swine fever has been spreading all over Asia. It has now spread to Mongolia, Cambodia, Hong Kong, North Korea, and Vietnam. In fact, it is now being projected that Vietnam will lose 10% of its pork production this year. Railbank is projecting that Vietnam, which, okay, well, we just read that, but today, pork accounts for 3/4 of all meat consumption in the nation of Vietnam. The disease is already a major national crisis in that country, and we are still at very early stages of this outbreak. Meanwhile, this virus is starting to pop up in Europe as well. According to one report, the disease was just identified at a major pig farm in Poland. So I'm not going to go on here. Well, we're almost done anyway, but it says, unfortunately, most people in the Western world still don't seem to understand the seriousness of what we're facing. Essentially, what we are dealing with is an existential threat to the entire global pork industry. And considering the fact that we really struggle to produce enough food for the entire planet in a good year, this should be a major wake-up call for us all. Last week, I spent about $200 on groceries and my shopping cart wasn't even full. The price of food is already ridiculously high, but it looks like things are going to get much worse in the months ahead. And I would concur. It astounds me how much money I can spend on just 2 little bags of groceries. And I think, my gosh, I don't even have much here to eat. You know, I get a bag of apples, I get some oranges or whatever fruit is there, bananas, whatever, and some potatoes. And, you know, I try to get good meat or go to the local butcher, which really isn't that much more money than the grocery stores, and the meat is from local cows. But yeah, it worries me. It does worry me because I'm single, and it worries me, the price of food. I mean, I only have to, thank goodness, supply food for one person, but wow. And Sammy. He eats better than I do, I think. Anyway. All right, let's go on here and see what else we can get into. Okay, this I found interesting, getting away from the disease and pestilences and back to Trump. We have this. CNN cuts away from Trump rally after crowd breaks out in CNN sucks chant. I found that very amusing because they did. They cut away immediately. Soon as the crowd started shouting CNN sucks. And it does. I mean, instead of doing things like that, like pulling, why don't they just make their network better? Why don't they actually start reporting the news? Instead of all this other extraneous stuff that they do. Wouldn't that be easier? You would think. Even shows, everything is beating CNN right now. Just about everything. So, yeah, CNN cut away from President Trump's massive re-election rally in Orlando Tuesday evening after the crowd broke out in a CNN sucks chant. The fact is that American dream is back and bigger and better and stronger than ever before, Trump told the crowd of supporters. As long as you keep this team in place, we have the tremendous way to go, he continued, adding, our future has never looked brighter or sharper. Trump explained that 2016 was not merely another four-year election. He said it was a defining moment in American history and pointed to the cameras in the back of the arena. Ask them right there, he said, of the media. At that moment, the crowd broke out in a CNN sucks chant. Yeah, must have been a little embarrassing for CNN. Oh, poor CNN. CNN's Brian Stelter claimed the network simply cut away for analysis. Sure it did. Sure it did. You guys, I don't know. You lie so much. Just kind of rolls off your tongue. Just lies. After a CNN sucks chant breaks out at Trump's re-election event, Trump says, this is a lot of fake news back there. Stelter wrote, CNN aired the first 6 minutes, then cut away for analysis. John Berman pointed out that Trump reverted to his usual lines, he added. Well, okay. Well, Trump's usual lines are a lot better than anyone else's lines. I just have to tell you, I don't think there's anyone that is a potential candidate for presidency that is anywhere near being appropriate for this country. And I don't think that any of those guys have support. I really don't. Because mainstream America, not mainstream America, but the backbone of America supports Trump. The hard-working middle-class people support Trump. And not just middle-class people. There's more than that. It's not just, they like to make us think that they're poor and stupid and toothless. That's not the case. There's a lot of educated people that are for Trump and for reasons that, are measurable. You can measure. You can see the success that he's had. It's measurable. So anyway, CNN will be CNN. All right. And what is this? I cannot... let's go on here. Yes, this is interesting too. It says Q and POTUS are watching and listening. An anon on 8chan requested a word at tonight's rally that will confirm the plan remains on target. And at first, I think the word was supposed to be Houdini. An anon on the 8chan said, somehow work the word Houdini or the name Houdini into the rally, and then they changed it and said no, make the word abracadabra. So interestingly, because that's not a word that you would expect to hear at a rally, really. It's not that word is used that much. Anyway, today a post was made on 8chan to confirm the word would be abracadabra. Don Jr. said abracadabra during his speech. Here is the video at 5:52 minutes. Yes, thank you, Q and POTUS. Here's the 8chan post that confirms the Q confirmation word. Well, we're not going to go out to that. I have gone out to it to confirm it because I don't want to be giving you false information. But let's hear here, 5:52. Hopefully I can get this to come up. 5:52. Let's go there.
Can't we have 2%? Why can't...
Okay. All right. I'm going to just 5:52. Well, we're close enough. We're at 5:42, so we'll listen for about 10 seconds here.
We have 3%. Why can't we do better? And Obama comes up. Well, Donald, there's no magic wand for that, Donald. You can't just make it happen. Well, Abracadabra, buddy! There is a magic wand!
Yep, there sure is. So I think that's interesting that an anon asked for that word to be said as confirmation that the plan is still on track, and just like clockwork, there it is. So very interesting. If you ask me, you didn't, but if you had asked me, that's what I would have said. Okay, now let's see. I think that might be it. Let me just hit on this right quick. The Trump administration is becoming strangely anti-gun. I don't know if I agree with this or not. What do you guys think? It concerns me if this is true. President Trump stands to lose voters in 2020 if his administration undermines the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening. Consider the events of the last several weeks. First, Attorney General William Barr announced the creation of a working group to consider ways to enforce the Lautenberg misdemeanor gun ban. The 1996 ex post facto law was a major victory for gun control groups. It imposed a lifetime gun ban for crime as minor as spanking your kids or spitting on your husband. Who spits on their husband? Gosh, man, if you're married, don't spit on your husband. As one of the great unintended consequences of the ban is that it disarmed many police officers retroactively. Now, Barr can't understand why the law we predicted would be ineffective has, in fact, been ineffective. Secondly, additionally, at the request of the Justice Department, the Supreme Court turned down a petition to review whether suppressors are protected by the Second Amendment. As a result of hearing damage suffered while I was in the Army, I have a shrill screeching in my ears 24 hours a day. That's 3,600 seconds every hour, every day of my life. How ironic it is that people in the Trump administration consider this a small thing. Also, at the behest of the Trump administration, roughly 500,000 bump stock owners continue to be outlaws, while challenges to their ex post facto regulatory ban continues to drag on through the courts. Lastly, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi loaded the Violence Act against women reauthorization with reams of gun control, and Republicans may sign off on it. Under Sections 801 and 802, everyone you've ever dated could bring a secret ex parte proceeding to strip you of your guns and of your 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment rights as well, with no due process whatsoever. Now we are being told that some Senate Republican offices would like to renegotiate with Democrats, deleting some gun control provisions but keeping others. And all of this happens while Donald Trump is in a public love fest with Piers Morgan, publicly muses about how he could eliminate NFA-regulated suppressors. These, incidentally, are being registered and subject to intense government background checks. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham is still holding up the possibility of cutting a deal with anti-gun Senator Richard Blumenthal to encourage the use of gun confiscation orders in all 50 states. Which brings us to Trump versus Biden. Despite all the happy talk you hear in some media circles, the 2020 election is not going to be a cakewalk for the president. In fact, the surest way for Trump to lose is for his supporters to assume that it's impossible for him to lose. Look at 2018. Democrats sent tens of thousands of workers to harvest ballots in target districts and spent the better part of $5.4 billion in electing their candidates. Yes, that is billion with a B. And yet, a flip of only 55,000 votes in 18 districts would have left control in the hands of the Republicans. So what's Trump's strategy? That support for gun control will send students and suburban women flocking to him? While neither of these groups are monolithic, the voters in these categories who hate Trump are not going to flip because of his support for gun control. And while I'm not suggesting that gun owners will vote for Joe Biden, they could stay home or sit on their hands. If Trump loses the western tier of counties in Pennsylvania, plus Macomb County, Michigan, and Florida's Redneck Riviera, then he probably loses the presidency. And for what? Does Trump think Broward County, Florida is going to flip? Donald Trump promises us that he would be best pro-Second Amendment president in history. Thus far, that's not been the case. Having said that, there's still time to turn things around. Donald Trump could get all of his base behind him by fixing his position on bump stocks and suppressors and probably win big. But betting against the Second Amendment has never been a winning strategy for Democrats or Republicans. Now, Michael Hammond is the Legislative Counsel for Gun Owners of America, a guns rights organization representing more than 2 million gun owners. Now, what do you think of this? I guess I haven't really been paying that much attention because I'm here temporarily in Canada, and I can't, well, I guess I could own a shotgun for hunting, but I don't hunt. So, you know, I can't really have a gun here. So, I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention to that aspect, and I would like to know, those of you that have, what you think, because clearly I'm not the expert on this, and maybe some of you are. I'm sure that many of you are gun owners. Many, if not most of you, are. So what do you think? Is this an issue? I hope not. I really hope not, because that is a huge issue. Huge. And I certainly would be against anyone that is against or that is for gun control. And I'm not talking about, you know, common sense stuff. I'm talking about gun control as in, you know, really cracking down on ownership. I just think that America was always had its guns, and it protected it against tyranny. And I think it's an important thing. We all know what happens to countries that have been disarmed. So that's it for tonight. And it is now 7:57 p.m. Eastern time. If you're on medication, if you're not, then maybe you should be. I'm just kidding. Anyway, it is, that's it for tonight, unless something cataclysmic happens and I come back and update later. But that's it for now. I wish you all a good night. Stay safe, stay well, and you got it. Keep seeking truth, because deception bites. Good night.